Alright everyone, I archived CNN's front page yesterday because I wanted just to memorialize it, to freeze it in time and get to show you just like the absolute pinnacle of fucking anti-journalism. They've given up even the pretense of being journalistic or having integrity or ethics of any sort. I'm just going to read you some of the shit that's from the front page. This is just one day. It's basically every day, but it was extra bad. Sometimes I go to the CNN front page just to see if there's any like juicy propaganda that I can analyze, because usually there is, but there's other stories that are more interesting. But anyway, their top news of the day the other day. Another presidential assault on science as fires and pandemic rage. What science? There's never been a dry year in California or the Pacific Northwest before. It's never occurred. You know why there aren't as many fires up in densely wooded Canada? They allow controlled burns. They allow brush clearing. The environmental lobby up there hasn't caused them to let a bunch of decaying old dry leaf and branch matter turn into a giant inferno waiting to happen. The western states have cucked before an environmentalist lobby that has convinced them that controlled burning should be banned. They're not allowed to burn off underbrush in a controlled, rotating manner in order to simulate nature. Wildfires are natural out there. They've been happening for millions of years. You can look at the soil structure and you can find that out for yourself, but they're hoping that you're actually ignorant. The funny part is, the people attacking science on this token are the environmentalists and the liberals, the latter just for politically opportunistic purposes. Trust me, they'd love to do controlled burns too, because most of them, they graduated from college, and I don't mean hippy-trippy university with Birkenstocks on. But they're willing to pander because it's election year. So they're willing to talk about how it's legendary. There have never been this many fires before. Oh my god, hurricane caused by climate change. It's fucking bullshit. That's actually not true. Weather patterns have never been stable, dude, and they never will be. You can believe in man-made climate change all you want. There have always been thunderstorms and droughts coinciding with one another, and there have always been plenty of forest fires. Trump's counterfactual tendencies, which are responsible for widespread harm, but are embraced by his supporters, were at work on multiple fronts Monday. Now, as far as the pandemic goes, let me reiterate this because CNN apparently hopes that its audience is too fucking stupid to understand this. The president is not responsible for the coronavirus response. It wouldn't be his responsibility. It wouldn't be Biden's if he gets into office. The president can only do two things: advise, through groups like the CDC, in executive capacity, you got Fauci there and so forth, and free up money, which has already been done. The President of the United States, because of the separation of powers and the 10th Amendment, lacks the authority to do much on a state level. Can't do it. He can only delegate to the governors and mayors what they can do. The governors have been responding. If there's a coronavirus problem in a state, it is the state's responsibility. The federal government has already poured resources into these states. In most states in the United States, the new number of cases is dropping. The pandemic is already beginning to wane. What we're seeing is that states that locked down really, really quickly, all of a sudden are having a second wave. States that didn't, the second wave, if it's present at all, is much smaller because you've got more people with immunity. That's just the way that it works. It's an epidemic. Basic epidemiology. If a large proportion of the population has already been inoculated against the disease by having had it, you're going to have a lower case total over time thereafter. There are fewer people to infect. Unfortunately, what we do know is that coronavirus may not actually impart full immunity to those that have survived it, especially those that didn't actually get sick. People who are asymptomatic carriers, they don't have marked amounts of resistance. That's unfortunate because it means they can get reinfected multiple times and eventually probably they do have a reaction. We're not sure this could be a ticking time bomb waiting to happen. The best thing to have done after the initial lockdown, so that we knew that the virus overall, it's not deadly to most people. It doesn't actually cause your lungs to fall apart and all this shit. That's uncommon. It's related to cytokine storm. It's related to the same thing that the flu can do, although less often. We realize that little kids aren't really particularly at risk. Healthy adults aren't really at risk. And a lot of the deaths are comorbid. That is, the person was fat, heart disease, asthma, things like that. Technically, I've got a comorbidity. I have mild asthma, which, by the way, is an exemption from having to wear a surgical mask. Can't wait to put that into practice when I'm back in the paranoid streets of Vermont. As opposed to here where nobody gives a fuck. Over there, they're still acting like a bunch of morons. Trump is not responsible for the coronavirus response. He lacks the legal authority to do anything beyond what he's already done. When Biden says, well, if I'm elected, I'm going to lock things down for 3 months. No, you won't. Because a federal court will issue an injunction on day one. SCOTUS will rule against you. You don't have the authority. The 10th Amendment explicitly prohibits you from exercising that authority. The only thing you can do is say, to people, and this particular clause is, in my opinion, construed far too liberally, liberal with a small L there, would be to say you can't travel between states. Interstate Commerce Clause could apply travel-wise. Yeah, it'd be definitely an unconstitutional reach around where he's jelking off his own egotistical cock, but at the very least a court might not issue an injunction. But he can't tell you can't leave your home. The President of the United States can't tell you can't go to the store. If the President could do that for an indefinite period of time, you could have a President come along who does it for 4 fucking years and essentially has a de facto martial law and everything but declaration, everything except for pragmatic declaration. Well, that would be clearly unconstitutional. It would violate multiple other amendments. That's what Biden appears to believe the president is elected for. It's a bunch of bullshit. You have plenty of other things. Why the bottom hasn't dropped out for Trump. And of course it boils down to, well, his fans are die hard because they're bigoted and they fear progress and stuff. Now, it's really because for most people things are moving in a good direction. Unemployment's being rapidly reabsorbed. We'll be below 8% by the end of the month. That's good. In some states it's lower. Vermont is, by the way, right in the middle. It's in the middle for everything. Even density, which is actually strange considering there's no major cities there. I guess, never mind. Coronavirus is beginning to dissipate. Again, in most states. People are getting back to work. The fear is disappearing, really. I think people at this point are more afraid of the far-left rioters. That's the real reason the bottom hasn't dropped out. Hell, he's regained 4 points since his lull there. He's back at 45, dude. Where have you been? Trump's indoor rally reveals how little he understands about being president. Well, I would hope that he understands something about it since he's the incumbent. Getting beyond that and the fact that it's sour grapes and CNN can't get over the fucking election. His rally, everyone was wearing a mask. Who needs social distancing? You don't insist on it at BLM rallies, whether they're in or outdoors. You don't tell looters to maintain a 2-meter distance between each other when they're doing a smash and grab at Wendy's. When people are hurling bricks through shop owners' windows, you don't tell them, make sure that you don't hand the brick off directly to the next person. Toss it a few feet so that you don't sneeze on them. They're not saying that to all the rioters, but for some reason, if you have a Trump hat on instead of a Black Power shirt, you're very susceptible to coronavirus, and it means that you hate grandma. Trump appoints climate science denier to top position at NOAA. So what? NOAA is mainly for giving weather alerts. That has nothing... Who cares? Who cares what his political persuasions are? Who cares what he believes in? He's not in the head of NOAA. He's not there to be a scientist and do research. He's there to head the business itself, the bureau itself, as an organization. As a de facto corporate entity, almost. Taxpayer funded, of course. By the way, if you can get banned from Twitter and your NOAA alerts don't come through, you're being deprived of your equal protection under the law, since taxpayer money's involved. America's devastating divorce from science. Devastating? I don't know. I think most people feel fine. Again, there's a reason why an increasing large minority of the population approves of the job Trump's doing. And this, let me say, the Democrats are really, really unhappy right now. They're starting to panic, which is why they've reverted to rambling about climate change and gun violence. Those are dead issues. Dude, the gun violence argument, if anything, they're smacking themselves in the forehead with a goddamn rubber mallet. Because right now, the big thing is the police can't even respond appropriately. We've been told just call the cops. Well, when that doesn't work, you end up with 5 million new Americans owning firearms. 90% of which will end up voting for Donald Trump, and I guarantee a lot of them used to be Democrats until they saw how the Dems were ruining things. CNN has given up even bothering to pretend to be journalistic. The entire front page of this is nothing but Orange Man bad. He's denying science, oh my god, it's exacerbating everything. Dude, the science denier thing wouldn't have been your headline a month ago. No, it would have been how Trump was stoking the fans of hate. You've been doing this for 3 fucking goddamn years. That's about all. Peace out.